George Kittle out here getting reporters community noted. Never a dull day covering the 49ers. Never a dull day in the driverless car. Casper making the way over Twin Peaks. There we see the city on one of those overcast days, but still very, very beautiful in San Francisco. So as we make our way down into the city, got to get to a workout. We can talk about George Kittle. No, he was not at the 49ers offseason program when it began yesterday. He was one of the very few players who wasn't there when it began yesterday. But it's very important not to read too far into things. In fact, George Kittle, ever since he signed his existing contract in 2020, he's rarely been at this stage of the voluntary offseason program. Players do not have to be present at this portion of it. So I think it's really important to remember that context. Diana Rossini said today on Twitter, or X, that George Kittle's absence is contract related. Kittle responded by saying that her sources are incorrect. And now we just have to wonder if that source is reliable. Kittle himself, well, I think that we'll go with it. I think that it does check out. Listen, it's no mystery that George Kittle has wanted a new contract ahead of the 2026 season because that's the final year of his deal. And he's a superstar. He's coming off of arguably his best season in the NFL. Superstars do not like playing on lame duck years of their contracts. They want more guarantees moving forward beyond that lame duck year. George Kittle obviously falls into that boat. So it's a matter of timing and it's a matter of the exact money at this point. Kittle's 31 years old, but again, he's coming off of his best season, very arguably. The catch rate, the success rate, the yards per route run, all elite. In fact, the catch rate and the success rate for George Kittle in 2024 were the highest marks of his career. So I think that he has every argument that he is still in the midst of his prime. And since that is the case, he should be paid at the top of the tight end market. I actually think that a deal here makes wonderful sense for both sides, for both the 49ers and George Kittle, because of the market inefficiency, or in the 49ers case, the market efficiency that you can find paying an elite tight end. And let me explain. The top wide receiver in the game right now, salary-wise, is Jamar Chase. He just signed a new deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. It's worth over $40 million annually. Well, George Kittle put up the third highest receiving efficiency score in terms of yards per route run, and he's consistently been in the top 5, including even wide receivers. George Kittle put up the third highest score behind only 2 wideouts in 2024, and he's currently only making $15 million per year. The top tight end of the game right now is Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals. He signed his new contract just about a month ago. He's at $19 million per year. And it really isn't fair to the tight end position. George Kittle is so impactful, yet the pay scale just doesn't match up. But that's something that the 49ers can take advantage of. This is a view that we can take advantage of. You pan back, and you could see the painted ladies at Alamo Square. We're taking the really scenic route today here through San Francisco. Yes, that's where they had a picnic, I think, in Full House during the intro scene. Not too many picnics today. They're still waiting for the sun to come out in San Francisco. Sometimes this happens. Sometimes that fog, the overcast, the marine layer originating from the Pacific Ocean takes hold. And that's what we're seeing right now as we go down Hayes Street. I think we're probably going to take a right up here. You can see University of San Francisco over in the distance. Certainly the type of drive that we want here with Casper as we talk about George Kittle and the efficiency that the 49ers can find through a new contract with him. So anyway, the bottom line is that he's typically missed this portion of the offseason program. Yesterday, I asked John Lynch if the 49ers expect George Kittle back for the OTA portion of the offseason program, which, by the way, still is voluntary. That's coming up in May, but that still isn't mandatory. Kittle has typically been there for the OTA portion. I think there's a chance that he's not there this year. If that does happen, then you could probably start start to say that this is contract related. But at this point, you can't fairly say that it's contract related because Kittle has missed this every single season, and he obviously hasn't had a gripe with his contract in years past. How about this house on the corner? The architecture of San Francisco really is something else. Now, if I pan this way, we're going to get to look down at City Hall, all the way down Fulton Street. There it is, Mr. Lurie's office. And now we can pan back and talk a little bit more about George Kittle. So anyway, we're going to see how the rest of this offseason progresses, but I don't think that the 49ers are worried about this George Kittle situation. I think that there is confidence that they will get an extension done. I think that the parameters are clear since Trey McBride has already signed for $19 million per year. Kittle, his number should exceed that. He's had over 1,000 receiving yards in each of the past 2 seasons. Again, the catch rate, the success rate, as high as it's ever been in 2024. He has every single case to make that he is still in his prime. And I think that you go back and you look at the game that he missed in 2024 against the Seattle Seahawks. That was the home game that the 49ers played in November against Seattle. This offense so badly missed George Kittle's adaptability and his rapport with Brock Purdy. He is intensely valuable to this team. When you talk about the 49ers roster housekeeping this offseason, and, Deebo Samuel being gone, and obviously some of those defensive players leaving, it's really important to note that they've decided to hold on to the true fundamental core pieces of this offense. And Deebo Samuel a couple years ago was a core piece of this offense. Stuff changes in the NFL. He no longer falls into that category. But you know who falls into the core piece category with 100% certainty? George Kittle. Because of his ability to run block, his ability to spearhead the outside zone, and simultaneously deliver the threat of wide receiver one. The 49ers can line up at any given time, in any given formation, and because George Kittle's on the field, opponents don't know if they're going to be dangerous running the ball or dangerous passing the ball. The EPA, the expected points added in running formations featuring George Kittle, has consistently been top 3 in the league. So he is a run blocking threat like no other, especially when you consider his ability to catch the ball. And he's been a receiving efficiency guy in the top 3 of the league as well. That combination makes Kyle Shanahan's offense. That combination is probably worth $35 to $40 million per year. But the tight end market actually caps George Kittle's contract at near the top of where the pre-existing ceiling of the tight end market has been. In 2020, George Kittle shattered through that ceiling with a contract worth $15 million annually. That helped all other tight ends. Now he's seen himself drop to number 4 with that $15 million contract, and Trey McBride is at $19 million annually. It only seems fair that the 49ers ultimately reward George Kittle at $20 million annually. He's done so much for this position. He is a walking first ballot Hall of Famer. And when the 49ers do eventually pay George Kittle that $20 million annually, well, that means that the 49ers will have won, George Kittle will have won, and all of this unnecessary drama that we're seeing populate our feeds on X and on YouTube will be in the rearview mirror. The community notes will be a thing of the past, but we might have to wait a little bit for that to officially be ratified this offseason. As usual, calmer heads will prevail.